All right, today we're tackling a really difficult and frankly disturbing subject: grooming gangs. Now, recent investigations have thrown a long-simmering crisis right back into the spotlight. So in this explainer, we're going to connect these latest findings to a decades-long history to really understand how we got to this point.
So here's how we're going to break this down. We'll start with a shocking 2024 report that got everyone talking. Then, we'll peel back the layers on the decades-long pattern that came before it. After that, we'll look into some of the cultural factors that are cited in the source materials, see how these concerns are now spreading to Ireland, and finally, we'll talk about the call for dialogue as a potential path forward.
Okay, so first up, let's talk about what brought all of this back into the headlines: a major investigation from 2024. Its findings sent absolute shockwaves, not just across the UK, but far beyond.
This investigation, which was led by Baroness Casey, it didn't pull any punches. It came out with a direct and, let's be honest, very controversial finding: the disproportionate involvement of British Asian men in these gangs. Now, this wasn't just another statistic. This was an official acknowledgement that basically reignited a huge public debate and forced everyone to look at a problem that, as we're about to see, has some really deep roots.
But here's the thing. To really get why that 2024 report hit so hard, you have to understand that this is not new, not by a long shot. This crisis didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It's actually built on a pattern of abuse that stretches back for decades.
And when you look at the history, it's incredibly long and disturbing. Sources actually trace the earliest reports linking these abuse patterns to communities with Pakistani heritage all the way back to the 1950s. This pattern of neglect eventually led to the Rotherham scandal, which was just a horrific case of exploitation that went on for decades. And the story still isn't over. Brand new probes are investigating alleged police complicity from that time.
You know, when people talk about this history, the Rotherham scandal is the most infamous example, and for good reason. It represents a catastrophic, multi-decade failure of authorities to protect vulnerable kids. The key takeaway here isn't just the abuse itself, but the whole systemic breakdown that allowed it to happen, which is exactly what these new probes into police complicity are trying to figure out. Okay, we're now moving into what is probably the most sensitive part of this explainer. We're going to be looking directly at some potential cultural influences cited in the source material we're using. And it's really important to be clear. We are reporting on what the sources themselves have stated.
So this leads to a very difficult question. What underlying factors do the sources actually point to? Well, one analysis, which was highlighted in The Spectator, suggests that we need to look at cultural attitudes.
So, according to that analysis in The Spectator, it points to two things: Islamic supremacism and misogyny. The article argues these are cultural attitudes brought from parts of Pakistan that may influence these crimes. Now, it is absolutely crucial to state that this is the specific viewpoint offered in that publication as one potential explanation. Other analyses often point to very different socioeconomic or psychological factors.
You know, a story this big doesn't just stay in one place. The repercussions of these UK reports haven't been contained within its borders. Let's take a look now at how the findings, especially from that 2024 Casey report, are prompting action and concern in neighboring Ireland.
And you can literally see this ripple effect happening in real time. While the UK is grappling with its long, painful, and established history, its neighbor, Ireland, is already taking preventative action. Ireland's police force, the Gardaí, are actually increasing patrols in vulnerable areas, and that's a direct response to concerns that the same patterns could emerge there.
So, after reviewing the problem, its history, and how it's spreading, the final question is, where do we go from here? How do communities even begin to address an issue that's so deeply embedded and so incredibly painful?
And what's interesting is that across the board, you hear one word coming up again and again from experts and in these reports: dialogue. The call is for an open, honest, and, let's face it, an undoubtedly painful conversation within communities. The argument is that you can only find effective solutions by confronting every single uncomfortable aspect of this issue head-on, without being afraid of causing offense.
And that leaves us with the final and most vital question of all. For a problem this complex, this raw, what does effective dialogue even look like? How can any community balance the desperate need for accountability with the desire for social cohesion, all while making sure that the victims are finally heard? That right there is the fundamental challenge that lies ahead.